Welcome to part two of the feeding lecture series. Forgive me again. I'm wrestling with a cold here, and talking is making me cough a little bit. So I'm sorry that I'm coughing through these things, but I want to get them done. So we're going to talk about seed eaters. I'm going to turn this on to slide view here. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. There we go. Okay, so birds that eat seeds. If you think about what a seed is, seeds are the reproductive part of a plant that holds its genetic material. So the plant does not really want, plants don't want in the way that humans want, but plants plants are adapted, as all things that reproduce are, to get their genetic material on to the next generation. So destroying a seed doesn't do that. But a seed has along with the genetic material, has a bunch of stuff in order to help that plant grow, that baby plant grow, okay? So it's really full of energy and nutrients. It's high energy, high nutrient food. And that's important because that's a really valuable food to eat. So if you can eat seeds, that's great. But in order to eat seeds, you've got to be well adapted to do that, which means you have to have a method of breaking open seeds. Seeds are usually really tough because they're made to survive winters. They're made to survive sometimes for years without growing. They're made to survive going through the guts of animals and not being destroyed. So you've got to be able to break seeds open, and seeds are hard. So in order to be a seed eater, if you want to get that high energy, high nutrient food, you're going to have to carry around a pretty thick beak. So most of these seed eaters have very strong beaks and very strong muscles in their mouth to break open the seeds with their beaks. So usually you can spot a seed eater by looking at its beak and seeing how thick and strong it looks. So think about the birds that we've looked at. Cardinals would be a great example, big thick beak. There's an evening grosbeak, also a very big thick beak. So many seed-eating species can coexist in the same habitat by specializing to different plant seeds. So, something might eat pine cone seeds. Something might eat the seeds of plants, grass seeds, for example. So there's tons of different kinds of plants all producing different kinds of seeds. So a lot of seed eaters can coexist in the same location. But few seed-eating birds only eat seeds. And the reason for this is that plants don't make seeds all year round, so you're going to need to find something else to eat often on other times. There are a few birds that are very specifically adapted to a particular species or group of plants. Most of them are finches. And these birds don't eat insects, and they pretty much only eat one kind of seed, although they'll eat other things as well. But they're very highly adapted to one kind of seed. Now, if that's the case, there's a couple times in the life cycle of a bird when you just need a lot of extra energy. You might think about what those times might be. There's kind of two of them, depending on how your life cycle works. But one is reproduction, okay? When you have to, if you're a female bird and you've got to produce an egg that's basically, a whole new bird coming outside of you, you've got to grow that bird. Once it hatches, you got to be able to, excuse me, you have to make the nest. And then once those babies hatch, you've got to feed them. So not only do you have to find enough food for yourself, you got to find enough food for your offspring and to grow them to the size in which they can feed on their own. So that's a really time when you need a lot of energy. And so most of these finches that are very specifically tied to a certain plant grouping time the reproduction so that they reproduce when there's an excess of those seeds. So this bird here is called a crossbill. the red crossbill. It's a northern species that eats pine cone seeds. It uses that bill, specialized bill, kind of, it looks like a deformity. It's not. It can use that bill to get inside of a pine cone and wedge it open. You may not even know this, but there are seeds down in there that it is able to then get out with that specially designed bill. Excuse me. So, excuse me. Crossbills nest in what seems like the middle of winter, February or March, because that's when there's an abundance of pine cones, and it times well with being able to provide a lot of food for its offspring. Another example, oh great. No, I do not want to update. Go away. Come on. Okay, sorry about that. Another example would be goldfinches. So, American goldfinches are very tied to a plant called a thistle. Thistle, it blooms in summer, and then in late summer, August-ish, it goes to seed. And that's what it needs. These goldfinches need this seed because they base their reproductive diet around these thistles. So in the springtime, when all the other birds are having their babies, goldfinches are not. And they wait till late summer when these thistles go to seed. And then they actually use the fluff, the down from the seeds. You know, the seeds kind of have like a dandelion type wind dispersal thing that they can gather and use to line their nests. And then they use the seed to eat, to have enough energy to reproduce, and then to feed their young. So they don't. So they have a different timing on the reproduction. Seeds are also really durable. Plants are adapted so that their seeds will last a long time. In case the conditions aren't right one year for it to sprout, it can wait until the next year. So they're very well adapted to storage. So since they store well, many seed eaters will do something called caching, which is setting up a place where they put seeds and they can come back and get them later to eat. It's like our refrigerator. And this bird that you're seeing here is a acorn woodpecker. And acorn woodpeckers make holes in the trees, and then they stick acorns inside. And the entire family of woodpeckers will defend that tree against other woodpeckers and other things squirrels, things that would want to eat those acorns. And then, it's their food source. They can go back to it over and over and over again and eat those acorns. Acorn woodpeckers are a western species. We don't have those here in Vermont. But we would have things like the tufted titmouse and nuthatches who take seed and stick them up in the crevices of bark in trees and come back and get them later. So if you're ever walking around in the woods and you see little seeds stuck in bark, you might want to start looking. You might see that. Or watch titmice or nuthatches that come to your feeder and see if they go back ever and cache those seeds in a tree somewhere.